hosts David Bates and Josh Carey.
Oh, hey, and welcome in, everybody. It's Saturday morning. It's time for Gardening Inside Out, coming to you alive from parts unknown in the nether regions of Middle Tennessee and beyond. Hey, it is, who said just because it snowed, David Bates, that we're not going to come on and do the program?
I
Come
don't
on,
recall anyone saying
people.
that.
Huh? You didn't?
I
Okay.
don't recall anyone saying that. Matter of fact,
Uh,
anyone who is
who
a
knows us?
regular watcher of what we do here, they know better.
Uh,
We tend to we we do much the same as the U.S. mail used to do. I think they have a different standard anymore, but that's another issue. We're here regardless of weather, and today
uh-huh.
in spite of it and in some measure because of it. And
Yes.
we can talk about what's going on, see what people have in their minds with respect to their gardens and their landscape. And
Yeah.
even though we're not in studio today, we're able to assemble our forces, albeit not our total forces, but
We don't
we've got
know.
80%. I believe we're prepared to bring it today. And of course, as
Uh-huh.
always, we're glad to have Caroline Gant and our capable production skills of Tyler Blankenship. And so this will be our,
Tyler's at Abbey Road Studio.
Good morning.
Can you see?
is what it
Yeah.
appears.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's
Apple
gonna
Records.
he's gonna bust a tune out here in a minute.
Let it be Gardening Inside Out.
There you go.
Well, without further ado, why don't we discuss this weather thing just for a bit
Okay.
and talk about how it's impacted us and what it's doing for everyone. And here in Middle Tennessee, of course, today is Saturday,
Mhm.
and it's going to be cloudy conditions. We could well get just above freezing. 34 degrees will be the likely high temperature. It's 29 at Bates Nursery Station, our weather station there at the nursery.
Mm.
23 degrees for the overnight low. As we get into uh, tomorrow, which is Sunday, it will be mostly sunny, 44 degrees, 31 for the overnight low. That's about as warm as it's going to be for a couple of days because Monday we return to the
Mhm.
colder conditions, 36, 19, and partly cloudy conditions on Monday. Tuesday, a little warmer in the daytime, but just as cold at night, mostly sunny, 40 and 19 again, 36, 22 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny conditions continue on Thursday, 47, 31. So it's a moderating trend. And by Friday, pretty nice, 51, 43
Mhm.
comparatively. And yeah, it's a week away. Maybe some showers next Saturday. Way too far to really put much stock in what the forecast says. It's an optimistic view. Look at the radar map here. You see
Wow.
all the storms that we endured yesterday have all moved off to the East Coast. So all of that's gone. We still have cloud cover. There is this reinforcing cold air that I mentioned is going to be in here the early part of the week. But all in all, we're going to have improving road conditions for certain.
Yeah.
They may not be all that wonderful right now, but fortunately, it seems around the area that the moderate temperatures and the amount of heat stored in the streets kept the worst of the icing conditions. Now, others may report in and say that, it's different in their neighborhood. And certainly a lot of neighborhoods where the roads are less traveled or in areas like Josh, where you are, it's south and east of town. You got more snow than maybe many areas north and west. So, again, 29 degrees,
Mhm.
and we've got a blanket of snow from Memphis to Bristol, as it were, in the state of Tennessee.
Well, I mean, the 37167 came through like a champ. I mean, it's not bad down here at all. I have not ventured past the end of the driveway yet, but it looking at Division Street, it looks okay. So I think everything's going to be fine. Just if you're not out and you don't need to get out, probably just go ahead and stay home, watch Gardening Inside Out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Tyler, have you been outside the onto the roads in your neighborhood?
I would
You're over
say,
more in the East Nashville side, right?
yeah, I would say my own neighborhood road is a little bit sketchy. And then if you get out onto one of the main streets, really, Nashville Metro has been pretty good at keeping the roads salted and clear. And
Well, they did get brine put down ahead of it.
yeah,
Oh, so they really did a good job on advanced preparation.
yeah.
And so Carolina, you're in an outlying area. So if you not
Rural.
ventured outside, have no idea.
No, I walked down and looked at the street. It's pretty icy and there's still some snow. They don't salt our roads, so we're the last to get out. But I don't mind being snowed in. I've been enjoying it.
Well, I think we had plenty of heads up from all counts as far as advanced preparations for this. I don't know of any future predicted storm going back into the early mid part of the week that
100% chance of snow. I don't think I've ever heard that here in Middle
no, they
Tennessee.
seemed very confident, and that
Mhm.
confidence was borne out. We did indeed get that. Actually, it did shift a bit further south. Even
Yeah.
places like Atlanta actually got snow that they were not expecting any more than just a trace. I'm not sure what the totals were in Atlanta, but I know probably will end up getting a couple of inches, which is unusual for the Atlanta area.
There was an aborted takeoff at Hartsfield. So, I mean, it was, they had to run everybody back down the slide. So, I mean, it got pretty nasty down there. And the airport is south of the metropolitan Atlanta
Right.
area, too. Hmm.
Yeah, and of course, being the world's busiest airport,
Oh, boy.
is not a. I'm glad I wasn't flying through Hartsfield
Yesterday.
yes, yesterday in
Mhm.
particular. Yes. So, all right.
Well-
So where we shifting to next, guys?
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and share some photos from my backyard. And
Ooh.
this is my glacier eucalyptus that I got from the greenhouse, 2 years ago, Caroline?
Yeah, that would be 2 years ago, or a little over two, I guess.
That is not normally a pendulous cultivar or a weeping type, correct?
Correct. It's pretty straight up, and it is kind of floppy because it's a juvenile tree at this point. And I do plan to stake it with 8 or 10 foot stake to keep it upright as it grows into its next phase next year. But excellent growth. I can't believe it. I actually, after I took this photo, went up and shook it off because I was worried. I didn't want it to lock in like that. It'd start growing into my greenhouse, which is just to the left of the photo, out of the screen. So,
Mhm.
Tyler, that's so impressive that
A
you.
rather lovely shot.
Yes.
Is that a glimpse of your driveway there? We see it has a nice cover on it as well.
that is actually my. I have a plastic or whatever, a tarp over where I usually put out my pool. I have an above ground pool, and then my house.
So
is
that's
in
like
town.
your slip and slide area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is now. And then this is I
Your
had to share
crossvine.
my crossvine because I'm on team crossvine, and I know that
see
that
it.
battle was settled as we all recapped in the New Year's episode. But that color is just so beautiful.
And this is really a great example of why it is a wonderful vine. You get great winter color, winter interest, in
Mhm.
addition to the green and that purplish magenta backside of the leaf. It's a nice contrast with the snow on there. So
Yep. And hey, and
wonderful.
that's great use of welded wire 2x4 squares too, buddy, my friend.
Oh yeah,
Isn't that a great trellis? I mean,
yeah.
really.
It really does well for just about anything climbing. I grew beans on it. I mean, right now this crossvine is over the top of it. It's an old bed frame, metal bed frame for the top,
Oh,
and then
wow.
I bolted 2x4s to where the legs would normally attach. So and then anchored that in the ground. That's been going for 4 years now.
Yeah. And David, noticed the proper staple placement right there in the corners.
Absolutely.
Perfect, man. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So a great example of proper carpentry and wire attachment skills.
Yep. And it
Tyler, that's
lasts.
beautiful.
Really
Love
is.
it.
And really, in all seriousness, we talked about this, this debate between Bignonia uh, and clematis. The crossvine um, is such a great type of a vining plant in that, and it's not a rapid grower.
Nope.
It's plenty sufficient, but it's not something that is extremely rapid. It keeps it keeps chugging along, and the great thing about it is just minimal interaction you ever have to do with it. You're not gonna have to fight that thing years down the line. You've had that one in there, would you say 4 years, Tyler?
Mm-hmm.
The crossvine,
Yeah.
about I think it's going on its third or fourth year now.
Trellis was 4 years.
So it's going year 3.
But even at that, there are great many type of clematis or clematis. If you prefer,
Clematis.
it would have completely overgrown.
Clematis.
Yeah. That's Colin. That's what he calls it. Clematis.
Tyler, that's gorgeous. You know I love crossvine.
Really does.
I'm proud of
Yeah,
you.
great example.
Yeah.
And Pam Eldridge, Tyler says, love these. I had a eucalyptus that lived for about 7 years.
Wow.
Good job, Pam.
Yeah.
Eucalyptus can be tricky to keep alive, especially if you bring it inside. So,
I mean, this, I'm fully expecting this to get maybe, if it survives this winter, 10, 15 feet tall.
you're going to have a tree.
Now
Because
that cultivar is
naturally
listed as
they
being
get
hardy to
30.
what?
Hardy to about this temperature, maybe like zero to negative 10.
I think Glacier's hardy to about 0.
0.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're right on the line from where you might reasonably expect success with it. But that's part of the fun of gardening, is being able to try to find plants that you may be able to stretch the boundaries on. Not, and I think one of the things we try to talk to and speak to here on the program is that not everything you're going to do in gardening is going to be successful, but because you have things that don't work out as you hope, it doesn't mean it's a failure either. There's the information you can gain from that. There are maybe additional preparations that perhaps you overlooked, and some of those things are with respect to freeze tolerance, but it's also moisture, and perhaps it's just not spending the time to get the right plant in the right place. So it's very important to gather as much information as you can, and the best gardeners are meticulous note takers, and that makes me inherently not the best gardener, because I do take mental notes, but those are much less reliable in the last years. So for the record, that thing that used to work really well, not nearly as much anymore.
I resemble that.
So anyway, write things down if you really want to keep a permanent record of it.
Save your tags too. I always save my tags.
Yeah, saving your tags is a great idea. I have a little notebook that I put my tags in and notes on plants that.
And when you're coming out to the nursery to visit, take your smartphone and take pictures of tags. Please don't pull them off, because other people who are buying those need to get that tag with it. So occasionally some people do that. That's a very small amount, but it does take away from that opportunity for the person who's buying it to be able to get that hard copy of information.
And it's hard to maintain inventory control out on the lot, I would imagine.
Well, we like to be able to scan those items, and it is a very correct identifier, and we need to have that information. So I know you got questions, Caroline.
We have questions. I was just about to say, let's get to some. So our first question is, should we shake snow off of green giants and other plants, or are there any other plants we should do, this for? So should snow be shaken from plants?
Well, I mean, I think Tyler's already answered that question.
He
It's
did. He talked
exactly
about
what he
that
did with
eucalyptus.
his eucalyptus, and that same applies to whatever that you've got. The concern will be is that this weighted uh, addition to the foliage, it does splay it out or bend it over in the case of that eucalyptus. So if it's an arborvitae, you're going to get this kind of laying out effect. Boxwoods can also be bad for that if they're not tightly sheared. So giving them a good shake, particularly once the temperatures are just above freezing, where it will dislodge rather easily. So you can take two hands with sleeves and gloves on and shake that
Nah,
out of there.
go
Oh
out
yeah,
there. Yeah, no, no. Go down to the t-shirt and shake it off, man. That's the way you
you
got it.
do
That
that, Josh.
sounds
Oh,
terrible, Josh.
hmm
So
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of people doing that this morning in particular.
it's really fun if you got somebody like a little kid or your wife and you're out there underneath the tree canopy and you shake the tree and it falls down on top of their head. That's when it gets good.
That's gonna make people really happy. I accidentally slapped Austin in the face with an icy juniper branch
I
a
was
couple of years
there.
back. I think it's in our blooper reel, one of them.
Hmm
It was supposed to just be like a little, like you
Flicking
were
it
talking
like
about.
a face full.
I mean,
Yeah,
the ice
just a
just
whole branch.
flung off into his face. Yeah.
We'll find that clip and we'll get it up soon. All
So
right, let's go ahead and move to another question. What's the best purple or blue flower for direct sun to plant?
Oh,
My
Well,
favorite's
just
gonna be Stokefaster. That is my absolute favorite, like purple, blue plant. Full sun. Its leaves stay up through the winter. It's really, really clean. And the flower actually opens during the day and closes at night and stays in bloom for quite a while. So that would be my top suggestion.
for a seasonal flowering thing, azaleas, I will put this out there in the memory of we had a horticultural loss and a really major loss this week. Duncan Callicott passed away,
oh
who was a
my.
longtime landscape architect and a friend to many. What a great guy Duncan was. He passed away this past week. But one of the things that I know personally from being in Duncan's garden was Puccinet's azaleas. And Puccinet's has this lavender purple color flower, and it's kind of a mid-season bloomer, so you don't typically get problems with respect to maybe a late frost or freeze getting it. One of the best attributes of that, and this is the point that Duncan was showing me when some years ago when we were in his garden, is that it is completely deer resistant. They won't touch it.
Hmm.
It has a bit of a fragrance, something that the deer do not like. So if you have an area that perhaps is an eastern exposure and you're thinking about planting azaleas, it's a great plant. It's a good looking plant, even when it's not in bloom. And if you live in areas that are heavily populated with deer, and I don't really know who lives in such an area,
All right.
they're everywhere. It's a good choice to make. Not a repeat bloomer, but it blooms profusely on its single flowering time mid-season. Puccinet's or Puccinet's compacta, which is my personal favorite. It's a little more dense growing with less trimming required.
What
So
do you what do you,
that's the one I like.
what about irises? Some of the bearded irises are actually a beautiful
Absolutely.
blue. Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
Fake
Aster,
flower.
Asters. Yeah.
salvia. Those are two great blooming, kind of that give you blooms throughout the spring and summer and into the fall. So those would be good,
Wasn't
good
there a s-
options as well.
what about a hollyhock if you can get them to live here? I mean, some of
Yeah,
the
I've
holly.
got hollyhocks that have been coming back for a couple of years now. I know her name is has slipped my brain, but David, you know her. I think she did some gardening for you. Kim, maybe?
Kim
She has
Bradley?
a bunch of hollyhocks.
Well,
Yes.
she may well be doing that. So, but and the point is that there are really quite a lot of different things to choose from when it comes to purple flowers from rhododendron, which are probably on the toughest end of the scale to grow,
Hmm
uh, because they just have quite a lot of problems. Two things that are decidedly less so. There are things. Uh, Buddleia, for instance, that have some great purple flowers that are quite easy to grow. And the development of more compact growing cultivars in the last years really has enhanced the viability of that. Is, you know, 15 years ago, they got to be way too big, way too fast. We've done a lot of great work, those who do the breeding and genetic work on those, getting those into much more compact and more manageable forms where you have a really thick cluster of flowers that do a lot to keep all that within bounds and to make it work really well in the gardens that we tend to have in this day and time, which are we just don't have the amount of available space that we did, say 20 years ago. People's yards are getting smaller, or they're even having to go to the container form of it. Speaking of containers, I think it's a good time to kind of shift gears for just a minute. Talk about Earth Mix garden products. You don't have to be confined to containers to do a good job with your things using Earth Mix garden products. It works just as well in containers as it does in the ground. And you could be using Earth Mix Garden, Earth Mix Landscape for your soil preparation. Caroline, who spends much of her time in the pursuit of getting the best tropical plants and things for the home and garden, she will be a strong advocate of Proganics I. There is no peat in that. And what you get by not having peat is you don't get fungus gnats, which are not particularly injurious, but they are
pesty.
They are annoying. Yes. You just, they buzz in the ears and in the nose, and I guess anywhere they can get to. So anyway, we avoid that altogether by using coconut coir. And you can also buy the straight Sustain product, which has only, it's a pure decompressed, pre-moisturized, and fluffed coconut coir. So check that out, along with the entire line of Earth Mix garden products, Proganics, you name it. There is a product for every application on there we go, on earthmix.net. You can see the entire line there. And if you're curious about where that's available, you can go over to the Find Earth Mix tab. And once you're there, you'll see the entire list of all the different locations all over. And it's an ever-growing list. We're even out west in Idaho, and coming this spring to Colorado, to Crested Butte. And then we're from northern Alabama to western North Carolina, all through Kentucky and Tennessee. So just click on the location nearest you for turn-by-turn directions at earthmix.net. Just remember this: success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products. And we appreciate you giving us a minute to talk about that and help you have success in your gardening. Take the work out of it and increase the fun, because gardening is not supposed to be work. It's supposed to be fun, and your success quotient goes up dramatically when you use Earth Mix in your planting efforts. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely. That's what it's good for. Hey, a quick shout out. We got folks looking at us on Facebook and on YouTube. Jane, Janet, Sam, we see you out there. Pam, of course, we know is out there. Alita's out there. Risha's out there. And Donna. I think Risha might have had a birthday this weekend. So,
happy birthday, Risha.
So, all right.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And remember that we're a live Q&A show, so you can ask questions. I know that this isn't our usual look, but we still have the ability to receive your comments and questions.
Yep.
Yes, we do. We are monitoring it right now. And I guess there's just not going to be a what's Austin's new jingle? Tyler.
Like I said, goat.
Oh, you have it in there.
I brought the board home with me, y'all. But
what's the goat? What's the goat?
I mean,
what is the goat?
What is the goat? I'm looking out my window and I see two beautiful redbuds covered with snow. They are absolutely gorgeous too.
That sounds stunning.
You know,
I would say my Nootka weeping Alaskan cedar is the goat right now that I have planted in my front yard. That was my Christmas tree 2 years ago.
Mhm.
That would be my goat plant right now. It's gorgeous in the snow. It's, looks very wintry. Wish I had a photo of it, but I don't.
Okay.
Uh, I I have to say, Austin has forcefully opinionated on me many plants, and the ones that he has have done really well for me. And I would say my Amsonia Blue Star is really one of the stars of the show. Unfortunately, in winter, not so much, but really the fall color. It's
Yeah.
just this brushy yellow bush. It makes me feel happy for some reason because it's just so fluffy and upright. And when you have so many of them planted together, it's just like a yellow cloud that's on the ground. Not to mention the blooms in the spring, which are first. You'll see those, and then the rest of the foliage comes in. So that's my goat plant in
Tyler,
honor of
that's
Austin.
also a blue flowering plant, like our question earlier.
Yeah, and native,
Absolutely.
and
And
it'll
native.
it'll take a good
And
bit
one
of
of
sun.
Bridget's favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So awesome. So do
Sam
you
says,
still have more questions out there in the queue, Caroline?
We do. I was waiting on your goat plant, David. Do you not have a favorite?
Oh, me, you know, I, there are a lot of great things out there, and we and we sell a lot of them. And I don't know if
select.
I've got one that just really let me ponder on that. There's one that is kind of a plant that is a shade-loving plant that really doesn't get a lot of notoriety. It it really doesn't have a showy flower on it, but it can produce some red berried fruit. Is
Oh,
an akuba,
cool.
and as a shade plant, I really like that because it will work in heavy shade situations where few other things do. And if it does get cold enough where it gets frozen down to the ground, it'll come back up because the roots really seem to survive. So, as far as a plant that I think really deserves more credit than it's given, that would be it.
Hmm.
Perfect. All
That's a
right,
shade.
now we can move on to the next question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, what type of soil should I use to pot bare root peonies, and what is the ideal planting depth? So in a pot,
I'd probably use garden.
I would use landscape. That
Would
would be
you?
my go-to.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Landscape is what I use
garden,
for a lot of my potted plants.
and to Caroline's point,
Little.
garden has twice the native soil in it that Proganics O does,
Hmm.
and because of that, it doesn't perk quite as well. So if you have drainage hole
Hmm.
stoppage issues that occur, that will exacerbate that because it's got more sediment that can filter out and plug those holes. So that's a good point with regard to that. As far as the height to plant, if you're bare rooting peonies, you're only going to want to bury those eyes down just a few inches below the surface. So hopefully you've got enough mass of soil there to be able to maintain that those tubers through the winter months. It's a possibility that they could freeze out over the winter in a container, although it's not real likely.
No.
Again, and one of the things we talk about from time to time, we've got no severe cold weather coming up in the forecast. So it's not applicable for the near future. But if you've got container things, and it really doesn't matter what it is, make sure you soak them thoroughly just prior to going into the cold weather, and then immediately thereafter when they thaw out. And that's I know it's counterintuitive. You think, well, isn't the water going to freeze? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is you want to try to fill the pore spaces in the soil with a liquid as opposed to a gas, which is what air is,
Yes.
and it slows down the change of temperature, how quickly that happens. It also provides essential moisture for plants that are perhaps going to desiccate or dry out the root system due to this freeze thaw
Mm.
cycle. So by doing that, you provide some additional insulation within the soil.
Yeah,
So
let's get the proper size container as well, because those those peonies could tend to get a little leggy and get a little tall as well. So I mean, you're gonna have to have. Don't we? I've got containers of like welded wire around mine for this next year because they got a bit leggy last year.
Did
yeah, and
they?
I,
I
Just
feel like mine
small.
never get leggy.
Well, they where mine are is when the thunderstorms hit them is when they tend to flop real hard,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
they're
Yep.
growing through them. So I mean, it's pretty
it
cool.
also is a great case for using Ito peonies, which are a
Ito.
cross between a tree peony and an herbaceous peony. And because of that, they don't flop. They're really very
Mm.
much more disease resistant. They don't get the foliar issues nearly as much. They do cost quite a lot more, but they're much lower maintenance. And if I were choosing one for a container that I was going to buy, I would consider that.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
definitely. Like you said, they stay like cleaner and stronger, but the throughout the season, like my regular herbaceous peonies, they start to get fungal issues and the leaves start to burn and they start to kind of flop a little bit, but my Itos stay upright until like the first frost when
yep.
they get taken out. So the foliage on those actually looks way better than the others. So I'd say it's
Mhm.
well worth it for that, extra 20 to $40 that you pay for
Yeah,
one.
yeah, they're not cheap, but they are one of the plants. And going back to the
Stunning.
question, there's so many plants to think of, but the Ito peonies are one of those things that they spent 20 years developing before they've successfully stabilized this cross. And it's one of those I
Mhm.
will I will say very candidly that the overwhelming majority of new introductions of horticultural are not really all that spectacular. There are many of the old tried and true varieties that are better, but Ito peonies is one that Mr.
You got it
Ito
right.
himself worked on for a long time, and he did isolate some. I think it was a half dozen originally. They've gotten more since then through tissue cultures. Keep that hand warm there, Tyler. We don't want you get that heater turned up there.
I'm
We
not
don't want
on
Yeah.
you get,
screen, David.
we can't. We
It's on
don't.
my
Okay.
screen.
I'm sorry. He's got himself turned off. I'm watching and nobody else is.
But and that's another reason that part of these plants are so expensive is the development time that it takes to go on with it. For 20 years, you're crossing with scientists and biologists and manufacturing and growing facilities. I mean, and it was developed in Japan, wasn't it, or was it out in Oregon? We had the
I,
gentleman that was
I
involved with
believe
that.
Mr. Ito, I mean, obviously he's of Japanese origin.
Right.
I think it may have started out there. I want to say that he came to the Pacific Northwest,
Okay.
uh, but I'm not going to bet any amount of money on the validity of those facts, but only
Hmm.
that he did spend about 20 years. So that's a great plant, one of those that is not overhyped.
Hmm.
It's legitimate. So
It
there's
Absolutely.
is.
that.
Everybody needs some in pots, in the ground, wherever. Give them lots of sun. Hey, we got a live question and comment in from Joan Dotson. Joan says, happy to see Tyler, Caroline, and Austin last Saturday. It was wonderful to see you when you came here to get irises. Even happier to get some great deals on bulbs. Question, should I put my iris bulbs in the ground now or wait until spring?
27 more minutes, and then you can go put them in. It's a little,
Yeah, it's a little, you may have a little snow layer to dig through. You
yeah,
might wait on next
good
week.
soil moisture. I mean, good soil moisture. If you
That's
think about
true. It's going
that.
to melt and then water those. Yep.
Mhm.
So it certainly won't, it will neither hurt to do it now as soon as conditions get favorable to plant, nor will it be worrisome to wait. They just need to be kept in a cool, dry place. In a basement is really excellent, and just let them lie dormant until it's time to get them in the ground. So there's no
Mhm.
particular urgency on that. You could wait 2 months before you got those in if you had them stored properly. Uh, or you could go ahead and go on with it. The part of the concern, if you're going to plant them now, is that do you understand the percolation of the soil in the area you're planting them in? You don't want them to be in a spot that
Nope.
tends to dry slowly, because with anything that's a tuber or like that, they don't want to be in a wet foot situation. Iris are not particularly susceptible to wet feet, but if it was on a spot that stood in
Stayed
water for a
wet.
long period of time, it could be a problem.
Very good.
Yes,
Very
it could. Hey, Joyce Hook says Ito peonies are expensive but worth it in all caps.
She
Yep.
also said that her goat today is hellebores blooming in the snow. You got
Oh,
that right.
100%.
Yep.
yeah, that one is the best. Hey, we got a question. Let's find that one. What are some plants that bloom the earliest? I would say hellebore would be one of the top plants.
Absolutely.
It is, and Josh
My,
has in his yard, he has witch hazel. Do you not
yes,
have a Diane witch hazel growing
we
in your?
do have a Diane. Yeah,
That one's like the earliest. My paper bush, that one already has cute little buds that look like little snowdrops or something. And
mhm.
that'll start blooming really late winter, early spring.
Forsythia.
Arnold's Promise witch hazel was the most widely, uh, it's the kind of the original one, so it's the most. And I didn't mean to cut you off there, Tyler.
I was just saying Forsythia is another one that blooms early.
It is,
That one is gorgeous.
and winter jasmine.
Yes.
Hence the
Hmm.
name winter in there. You'll see that those in bloom frequently when there is snow on the ground. So they now they don't bloom a long time, and
Showy.
they're not so abundant in flowers that they make a stunning show. But you do get that uh, yellow flower against the bright green stems, so
Gorgeous.
that even without foliage on there, they still show out and show up very nicely in the garden. See them used uh, very well along and draping over rock walls and that kind of thing. They have an arching
Mhm.
growth habit to the branches.
Wonderful. Hey, Helen is asking on our Facebook page, I would like to plant a Japanese maple in my backyard this year. Which variety do you recommend I consider for a full sun area?
Ooh. Blood good?
I've got a Katsura Japanese maple in full sun, and it's gorgeous. In the spring and early summer, it does great. Now it does get a little bit of leaf burn, starting in July through the rest of the summer. So I wouldn't say it's super ideal for it, but it can handle full sun. It's in sun from morning to night,
I
and
think Emperor One is generally considered to be the most sun and heat tolerant of all cultivars. It will resemble bloodgood, pardon me, in growth habit and overall look, but it doesn't get scorched by the sun. So if you have it in a more south or westerly exposure, it'll tend to fare better than other cultivars will.
Hmm.
wonderful. Getting back to our questions. Hold on. I have so many screens that I'm switching between right now. All right, when is the best time to sow seeds? They ask May, question mark. I mean, it kind of depends on what seeds you're sowing, I would
Josh,
say.
you've got this one.
3:30.
Yeah, there
There's the
you
answer.
go.
Sow them at 3:30.
Yeah, and I actually had Josh. I had a question from over the past week from our buddy Jim Stevens
Oh
out of Cleveland,
yeah.
Ohio. He was wanting to do some overseeding up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I assured him it's a little early.
Early.
You need
Mhm.
to wait on that one just a bit. And it not only is true for Cleveland, Ohio, but even Nashville and much further south than we are here. There's no particular rush on getting that done. At this point in time, you need to be thinking spring germination, not in terms of, fall is already done. So we're well into winter now.
Now, David,
So you'd be, depending on where you are geographically, I would say in Middle Tennessee area, sometime in the latter part of February into mid-March is really an optimal time. What you don't want to do is to have that seed lying on the ground where it might rot if you
mm,
had a really wet period or the conditions are just a little too cool for germination. You could lose a good portion of that seed, if not all of it, if it is
sits
not
there
in
too long.
favorable germination conditions.
Uh-huh.
So wait till you start getting warmer days and you have reasonable expectation for the soil temperature to warm that seed enough to be able to get germination relatively quickly, hopefully within 7 to 10 days, perhaps as much as 2 weeks. but you really don't want to go beyond that, because the other thing you run into with springtime germination is, unlike the fall where the conditions tend to be getting a little nicer, in the springtime it's getting warmer, but you're having less frequent rains oftentimes. So that can work against you as well. If you can time it just right, you don't have to do anything. If you time it wrong, you may get it germinated and have to do a lot of supplemental watering with a sprinkler in order to keep that grass going until the roots get established well enough to get you on through the season.
In
Well,
many,
go ahead.
on many seed packets, you'll also see the little color coded bands of when to plant, and then also when to sow for fall if applicable, or spring. And usually it's 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 weeks before the either first or last frost.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jim's probably growing rye up there in that grass anyway, don't you think, David? I mean, it's probably not.
That was my suspicion. He didn't say specifically, but yes,
he didn't know. Yeah,
correct.
yeah. But so I mean, that's going to change it a little bit, because if they get any warm weather at all up there, which is unlikely, so it's going to see what's going on with it. But let it roll.
But you know who has great seeds right now?
Who has great seeds?
One delivered to us actually last week.
Oh boy!
And who is that?
That would be that'd be that place out there on Whites Creek Pike.
Yes, and you can go to batesnursery.com right now.
Yes, you can.
The great thing about going to Bates Nursery right now is that you're going to be able to buy everything there for 25% off. It's our snow day sale. When it snows all winter long, when we were closed due to snow, you're going to be able to save 25% off everything. That only excludes gift cards and deliveries. Other than that, everything we have in our extensive inventory, 25% off. So check it all out. You can buy now and then come pick it up later, or you can arrange to have it delivered. Whatever works best for you. We're here to work with you to your best advantage. And with the improving weather conditions we've got going on the coming week, it's a really great time to get out there and shop for some things and get them delivered and planted next week. So check that out at batesnursery.com. And what you will get at batesnursery.com, in addition to just pretty pictures, is, we really specialize in information. And what we try to do in everything associated with Bates Nursery is to provide information and some good context surrounding that. So no matter whether you're talking about our program here on Saturday mornings, or if you're going out to the website there, you can check out my newsletter that I do every week. Try to talk about a lot of the things that I think are pertinent with regard to gardening. Weather is certainly one of them. This one, I try to take a little different spin on weather. So, and thank you to everyone. I've had so many really gracious comments this week, and reply emails back to me with respect to that this week. So thank you for that. And so choosing your weather is the name of this week's article. And you can go right to batesnursery.com and subscribe from there if you wish. We have now been beautifying Nashville for 93 years. I'm pretty sure my grandmother would not have believed that we would be still doing our little endeavor here, and we'd be doing it in the way that we are. But we're so very grateful to be a part of the Nashville community, and we're constantly looking for ways with this team of experts and horticulturalists and people with a whole lot of different skills. We're really feel blessed to get to impart the experience and the quality products that we have to offer you at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And our typical hours are from 8 until 5 o'clock Monday through Friday.
9 to 4.
9 to 4, excuse me. I'm not looking at any copy or anything. I'm coming with old numbers down here, but it is indeed.
And you can change the hours anytime you want to, David. You're the
9
boss.
until 4.
And Josh can
That's really what
change
I'm
the
working
sale.
for.
Yes,
9
Josh.
until 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, 9 until 2 on Saturdays. However, we are closed today, so that means our sale pricing is in effect for today, and we're going to go ahead and extend it into tomorrow. So check it out at batesnursery.com. Beautifying Nashville since 1932, Bates Nursery and Garden Center. Check it out at batesnursery.com.
Real
Hey,
quick
Jane
there.
Ann Gibbs is
Yeah.
asking, are seeds on sale as well
On the website?
Yes.
Yes.
on the website? Yep.
Yes, they
So
are.
yeah, Jane, it sounds like they are.
Just through the weekend.
Y'all get online as soon as the show's over. Well, you're already online if you're watching the show,
Yes, you are.
and start your seed shopping. Get some house plants. Tyler took some gorgeous
Tools,
photos of
pottery.
house
Yeah.
pottery, everything.
When does anyone ever not online anymore? I mean, it's
That's a
not like,
good
you know,
point.
it's not like you're waiting for that modem to stop squelching at you. You know, we're all pretty much there all the time. And sometimes think back to the early 90s
Yeah.
I can remember when upgrading to a 14.4 baud rate modem was like, oh, wow,
Oh,
this is
with the
We're
awesome.
math
really going now.
coprocessor. Oh, 56K, baby. Gotta go.
Whew.
No phone
Okay.
lines tied up here.
That's right. All internet. Hey, Tyler, I think it's time to go into another segment.
Are we talking about
What's in Room with Caroline?
that one?
I think we are. Yes, we are. So Austin had a great idea that I bring some of my favorite houseplants in that are currently in the room with me. So I've just got a little handful of some of my favorite small houseplants that I could fit into screen. So this is going to be the first one. This is a fern leaf begonia. I'm going to get it
Oh,
close to my
kitty.
Hey, let's
camera.
get that up where everybody can see it better.
Isn't that
Can we
cute?
get it on full screen?
It's full screen, David.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I
I'm-
see myself all big on the YouTube. So this is one of my favorite plants. It's a little more high maintenance than most begonias that you would find indoors in your home. If you don't water it, it droops and it dies very quickly. And then just speaking of begonias, this is begonia for rocks. Look at this guy.
That is
Wow.
awesome.
Those spiky leaves. This one's so cool. And this one's actually very easy to propagate and very, very easy to care for. So if you're able to find one, you should absolutely buy it. They're usually pretty expensive. We got them at Bates one time and they were $50 for a little 4-inch pot. Of
Oh,
course, I
gosh.
got one and I absolutely love this. I'll be making babies to give to friends as soon as it gets a little bit bigger. But let's just look
Now,
at
do
those.
you make vein type cuttings with those where you take a leaf and dissect it into many pieces and
And then lay it or like lightly stick it in the soil. And it's crazy
Mm-mm.
how quickly you'll get a whole new plant out of that. A lot of times when we get begonias, actually, I think these, when we got them in, they were, yeah, little leaf segment cuttings that were props to start it. So it really shows how easy it is to propagate these begonias, but you can also just take a stem cutting. That's going to be a lot faster. And a little bit easier, a little less having to maintain it.
Oh,
Now,
my goodness.
this is one of my favorites. This is an Anthurium forgetii and Regal that I actually got from some of our guests that I met here at the nursery, who are now my favorite plant people ever, Hunter and Les. They actually cross-pollinated some of their Anthuriums, harvested the seeds, and then grew this from seed. Look how
oh my
cute that
word, that is
is. Isn't that
it's like a
amazing?
trident on the leaf.
Yeah, they should name it Trident.
And then
Yeah.
there's the new growth right there. The new growth comes out pretty dark. It was like twice as dark when it was opening. It was almost black. And then you can see it starts to lighten as it gets
Call it
more mature
Poseidon.
and gets older. But I still can't believe that he did that, grew it from seed. And when he brought it to me, it was like seriously this big. It had
Wow.
like two little tiny leaves and it's been growing like crazy.
No pressure at all, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
Were you feeling a little nervous?
Huh?
Were you feeling a little nervous about taking care of that little baby plant you knew was
You know, I have to
very
say, at first I was, when he brought it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a really, really important plant. But I've had it under a grow light. I make sure it gets plenty of humidity and it doesn't dry out for too long. They like to sit dry for a little bit. but it's been really, really easy. I can't wait to see it as it gets bigger because anthuriums like this, those leaves get huge. So it's going to get
Right.
really big over time. And this is one of my favorite small cacti. Now, if you know me, you know I have a ton of cactus. Most of them are way too big for me to have brought into this room with me or be holding it. But this is a Cephaloserius type cacti, and I'm actually not entirely sure which one. I haven't been able to find any information on this one on the internet. This was actually gifted to me from Vanessa, who we had on the show, I believe, one time. She used to work at Bates Nursery.
Mm-hmm.
Love her so much, but I'm going to get it close so you can see how spiky it is. Do you see those spines, how long they are?
Mm.
And we
Scary and
still miss Vanessa, by the way. She was
Oh.
Yes.
wonderful.
we will always miss Vanessa. Do you guys want one more plant?
Sure.
Sure, might as well. This one is my milk confetti syngonium. So you can see these pink splash leaves.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Syngoniums are super cool. They're very easy to grow. They kind of vine or they'll climb on something if you tie them around some kind of wood, moss pole, what have you. But
Syngoniums are the artist formerly known as Nephtitis.
that's right.
I mean, I don't know why
Okay.
they keep changing names. We go, nah, that's not really in that classification. It's over here. So they do that.
Syngonium kind of has a nicer ring to it a little bit.
It does.
So
I
maybe
agree.
that's why.
I got one in my room.
You do. Let's talk about that, Josh.
Okay, what we have here, variegated lemon.
Check it out.
Check it out.
That's beautiful. Where'd you get that
Eliza,
from?
come get your plant. This was a Christmas present to my eldest daughter from Bates Nursery. in
Yeah,
Garden
well, it's an
Caroline
excuse for her to
actually-
come visit, you know.
Those
she,
leaves are painted. They look so beautiful.
absolutely. It's gonna go.
We have some of those at the nursery right now, so you could shop and get them online today if you wanted.
We're gonna
Those
put it.
variegated
5%
lemon trees,
off.
they've
Yeah.
got pink lemons, supposedly. I had one for a couple years before it got some kind of weird something and died. It never fruited. So I wanted to see if the lemon was actually pink once it did, but it says that it is pink. So
Well, we're gonna pot that in a Mediterranean blue container. It's gonna be going. It's gonna live inside the house over there in the Brentwood facility. So
ooh, that's going to be stunning.
Mediterranean blue up against that. Yeah, I think it's gonna work.
I think so. All right, y'all ready to get back to some more questions?
Certainly.
Let's do it. You's got leggy and now being munched on by deer. Should we trim and keep the deer away?
They're
That is
obviously from New
wild that
Jersey.
deers are
You
eating
know,
that
I
plant.
wouldn't, I would have let them munch right now
Use.
and then trim right before new growth, you know, late February, early March. I mean, if you trim it back right now and they continue to munch on them, now generally, I mean, Texas is one of those plants that is considered toxic. Now, it may
Yes.
be that deer don't know that, and it doesn't affect them accordingly. But I know that cattle have been known to be killed by that. So if you find if you happen to find a dead deer lying around and you know your ewes have been getting chewed on, that might be the connection. However, I would just not trim them right now. It's just, you know, wait until you get closer to emergence of new growth. And then when that new growth emerges, then you've got really lush green growth. And there'll be so much else in the plant world growing at that time that maybe they'll be distracted and, you know, and go to something else. So I would wait. I would not do it now. Let them chew it off if they want to,
They're
and
quick
not chew off deeper.
Aren't most of those very quick growing as well, David? Use.
Use what some
Okay.
are and others not so much.
Okay.
If it's like a dense yew, yeah, it grows pretty fast and they get, you know, pretty big and wide. So it, and there are other types of yews that grow similarly. If it is like a Hicks yew or a pyramidal yew, which is upright or a pyramid in growth habit, they don't grow nearly as quickly. So I think that's where I would be more hesitant to trim them now. Just you know, you've got 2 months essentially that you can still trim them in. So just be patient. It'll get here.
Very
It'll
good.
be here. And then speaking of pruning stuff back, when do I give my boxwoods a severe cutback? They are old and have gotten out of control.
Well, that's a very similar answer there, except they're being a broadleaf plant. They may flush out slightly earlier or at a slightly different time. The main thing is that you want to trim them before there's any signs of new growth. So you need to be watching the buds on the plant. If they begin to swell at all, you need to trim them immediately. And the reason that's so important is that on boxwood, given that they are comparatively slow growing plants, some varieties you only get maybe 2 to 3 inches of growth a year on. If you miss that first flush, you have missed most of your opportunity for perfecting the look of that boxwood. So if you will trim them just before there's any signs of new growth, you can shear them quite tight, even to where they look a little stubby. They'll flush out new growth all over, and then they'll be nearly perfect. So timing is important on those, but you have to be paying attention to your particular plants where they are growing to be able to monitor that in advance.
Wonderful. Hey, Tyler, do we have some photos from Miriam that we can go
Uh,
ahead and get up on the screen?
I think we do. Stand
And we'll
by.
just go ahead and do our regular Miriam shout out. Hey,
Good
Miriam.
morning, Miriam. So Miriam,
Oh,
I know one of her pictures is a petunia that's blooming on January 4th, which is wild. I had
Wow.
already pulled up my petunias by that point because they were
a
looking a
way
little
petunias
dead.
can do that. And of course,
Cool.
don't think that is a petunia.
This one is
Neither do
not.
I.
This is
Look at
echinacea
Echinacea,
seed
yucca.
heads in the
Sorry.
snow. Oh,
I did not get that petunia photo. Sorry. But these
oh,
are
it was
her.
a separate email. But that
Yeah.
echinacea photo, if you want to go back to that, that's the one I was talking about. So I know we have
Oh.
this kind of debate, not really debate, but different opinions on leaving seed heads up through the winter. I am somebody who likes to leave mine up because look at these in the snow.
Isn't that
So
awesome?
yeah,
Mhm.
they look like they're wearing little hats.
Great fence too.
That's one of the best
Yeah.
things for me about snow is seeing how the plants wear the snow.
Mm-hmm.
So
The
That's a good way of
adornment.
putting it, wearing the
Yeah.
snow.
mhm.
Josh, I love that you always notice the fences.
Okay, it's all structure, man.
Yeah,
It's
the
all
fence
structured.
the fence has a bunch of toboggans on their heads.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Tiny
Look
white
at them.
toboggans. And then this is the yucca, right?
Uh-huh. That's a
Yeah.
That is,
yucca.
that's a
That is
yucca. Good
covered.
gosh,
Or maybe
That's
yeah,
huge.
yucca.
Yeah, and that's an
That's
example
not
of
an
a
eye.
plant that I would not go out there and dislodge the snow on. I would make
No.
sure leave that be. Yeah, it's
That's
not going to hurt
cool.
a thing. So looks beautiful.
It's got a great look.
Monster.
Tyler, were there any more photos you had?
Yeah, we
We had
had one
one.
more here.
There you go. That's Miss Kramer's figs that she sent us a message that she's hoping she's going to get figs next summer. But
So
she's
got-
there are figs under there.
no. Well, there's fig tree. Well, they are fully insulated.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
I would say
impressive.
that's an accurate statement.
Well, so I don't think brown turkeys, and she had the other variety, and it's just a black something. But the brown turkeys, even with that, David, they could go right back to the ground, I would think.
No, I would say given that level of insulation,
Mm-hmm.
she may not even have a stem that doesn't bud all the way to
No.
the tip.
Okay.
But the other issue that she needs to be mindful of
Mhm.
when taking
Right.
those measures is you've got to get that off of there
Yes.
at the right time because it can go from being beneficial to being destructive. So you want to get that off while the plant is still completely dormant
Yep.
because they're going to start budding up, particularly with that plastic container on the very top. I would at least once we reach, say, early to middle of February, I would pull that off. I would
Yes.
not leave that container on there. I would get that because it's going to start.
Condensation. It's gonna
Well, the
form.
greenhouse effect is going to start happening, and what you can do is have the top of that plant starting to push foliage. Then it's very susceptible to frost and freeze damage. It won't kill the plant, but it could kill the top of it. So that could be counterproductive for my purposes. What she did around the bottom is spectacular.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah.
great. And just by doing that, maybe cover over cut the top off, cover over the rest of it with a tarp during the particularly severe times. Now I've got a very, very large uh, brown cultivar type of turkey called King Arthur at my house. And it's been killed back to the ground in the last 12 years, like 3 different times.
Mm.
2 times that I was sure it was dead. It's come back up each time.
Bigger, battered, and stronger.
It's 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall again, at least currently. We'll see what it looks like after winter, but it's not uncommon to have to cut those things back. So what you lose is, and what she will gain by having that protection is that you'll get the early production of
Yep.
figs, which is really the better one. The
Uh-huh.
late figs are good, but they're never quite as good as those early ones.
Because you're just
Wonderful.
you're just
Okay, our final
anticipating.
question of the morning. Is it too late to transplant a hydrangea? No,
No.
it is not.
Yeah.
I talked about transplanting my panicle. I had 3, transplanted those in the middle of winter. So now's the time.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'm
Mhm.
in total agreement with that. And with that time reference, we are now out of it.
Mhm.
We've gotten to the end of the program. We'll thank everyone for tuning in today and enjoying this snow day. Make sure you go over to batesnursery.com and save 25% off everything on the website. So check it out.
Put out an APB on Austin. He'll be back next Saturday. But all points. So he's probably out playing with the kids and everything.
Probably
He's
so.
sledding.
Or wrangling them one.
Like herding kittens. So, but hey, folks, once again, we do appreciate you joining Gardening Inside Out every Saturday morning. Hey, we're available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Don't forget about Twitch. Like and share us everywhere. I share it to Twitter every X every Saturday morning. But you got to follow me to do that, so don't worry about that. Anyhow, folks, we do appreciate you. We'll see you next Saturday morning from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery.